Hi everyone. So I'm Sir Jonas P. or Daniel, and for this business finance video, we will be discussing chapter 1. Chapter 1 is all about the introduction to financial management. Okay? Chapter 1 will be divided into two parts, which is part 1 and part 2. Now here are the topics to be covered or to be discussed in part 1. Okay? So number 1, we will define what is finance. Number 2, what are the difference between the accounting and finance? Number 3, what are the different types of finance? Number 4, what is shareholders wealth maximization? Number 5, what is financial management? Number 6, corporate organization structure. Number 7, what are the roles of financial manager? And number 8, the guiding principles in financial management system. Okay? Now, for the learning objectives or for the learning competencies, at the end of this video, the learners should be able to define what is finance. Number 2, the learners should be able to distinguish a financial institution from a financial instrument and financial market. Number 3, the learner should be able to explain the major role of financial management and the different individuals involved. Number 4, enumerate the varied financial institutions and their corresponding services. Number 5, the learners should be able to compare and contrast the varied financial instrument. And lastly, number 6, the learners should be able to explain the flow of funds within an organization through and from the enterprise and the role of financial manager. Okay? Now, for the introduction to finance, of course, para maintindihan natin what is finance, we need to have uh, a definition. Okay? So, let's define what is finance. Now, we have a lot of definitions for finance. Okay? So, ilan lang to sa mga definitions ng finance natin. So, according to Gitman and Zatter, finance can be defined as the science and art of managing money. Now, managing money is a difficult skill to master, 'di ba? In fact, if you don't know how to use it properly, it can end up hurting you instead of helping you, 'di ba? Kung hindi tayo marunong kung hindi natin na manage ng maayos yung money or yung mga resources or yung funds natin, so, puwede 'yan mag-cause ng kunyari, cash shortage. Now, kapag nagkaroon tayo ng cash shortage, it can affect the operations of the business, 'di ba? Kasi itong mga cash na ito, kailangan 'yan ng business to pay for the daily expenses. Ginagamit nila yung cash para sa pagbabayad ng mga, debts or ng mga utang nila. Now, if hindi natin properly na ma-manage yung cash natin or yung pera natin, especially the resources, ayan, ang pinaka-worst scenario na puwedeng mangyari kapag hindi natin na ma-manage yung funds natin ng maayos is itong puwede tayong magkaroon ng bankruptcy, okay? So, puwede rin malugi yung business natin if hindi natin properly na ma-manage yung ating resources. Now, is it important na dapat alam natin kung paano mina-manage yung pera? Okay? In finance, syempre, you have to know a lot of different things, especially kapag pinag-uusapan natin yung pagmamanage ng pera. Now, according to Gitman and Zatter, sabi nga dito, in finance, finance can be defined as a science. Now, bakit sinabi na finance can be defined as a science? Kasi just like the science, like chemistry, like physics, 'di ba? May mga theories tayong inaaral, may mga terms tayong inaaral, may mga procedures tayong inaaral din, and also may mga computations tayong inaaral. Ganoon din sa finance, okay? May mga theories, may mga rules, may mga laws, may mga computations tayo na inaaral when it comes to finance. Okay? Now, so dito, bakit sinasabi din na finance can be defined also as an art of managing money. Okay? Kaya sinabi dito na finance can be defined as an art of managing money kasi just like an art, di ba? Dito lumalabas yung creativity ng company or creativity ng isang financial manager on how they use their funds, on how they're managing their funds or money. Okay? Iba-iba tayo ng ways. Halimbawa, tayo mga individuals, iba-iba tayo ng ways, iba-iba tayo ng techniques, iba-iba tayo ng skills kung paano natin minamanage yung pera natin. Okay? Kaya nga sinabing finance can be defined as an art of managing money. Kanya-kanya tayong techniques, kanya-kanya tayong style, kanya-kanya tayong skills. How do we manage our allowances or how do we manage our resources? Okay? Kaya sinabi dito, finance can be defined as the science and the art of managing money. Okay? Now, another definition, so finance is all about the management of large amount of money, especially by the governments or large companies. Now, sabi nga natin, in finance, we talk about how do we manage our resources or how do we manage our funds or money. Okay? Now, another definitions of finance is, sabi dito, the giving of monetary support for an enterprise. So it means to finance. Kaya nga sinabing to finance, it means that you are giving monetary support for an enterprise. Halimbawa, ikaw ay may excess cash, may idle cash ka na hindi naman nagagamit. So instead na patulugin mo lang yung cash mo diyan sa business mo or diyan sa company mo, why not na i-invest mo or ipautang mo yan sa mga nangangailangan ng pondo. Mas kikita ka pa at may opportunity pa yung pera mo na mag-grow, 'di ba? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng giving monetary support, which means to finance. Okay? And last definition, it's all about the monetary resources and the affairs of a government, organization, or person. Okay? Now, let's talk about the difference between the accounting and finance. Now, accounting and finance somehow or somewhat they are related to each other. Okay? Now, ano yung difference? Ano bang pinagkaiba ng accounting at ng finance? Okay? In accounting, in your accounting subject, 'di ba? In accounting, it's all about the record keeping or bookkeeping functions. Now, what do we mean by record keeping? What do we mean by bookkeeping function? So, it means that all the business transactions, okay, lahat ng transactions ng company, lahat ng mga business transaction or financial transactions ng company, nire-record natin in accounting. Okay, kaya nga sinabing record keeping and bookkeeping function. Okay? So, kaya nga kayo gumagawa ng journalizing eh. Nire-record nyo, 'di ba? Nire-record nyo lahat ng mga transactions ng company. Okay? Now, in accounting also, it is concerned with the preparation of financial reports or financial statement. Now, after ng record keeping function or after ng bookkeeping functions, halimbawa na-record mo na lahat ng transactions sa journal. 'Di ba? In accounting, after mo ma-record 'yon, lahat ng transactions, sinasummarize mo lahat ng 'yan into a financial reports or financial statement. Okay? In accounting, after mo i-record lahat ng transactions na 'yan, isa-summarize mo 'yan into financial reports or financial statement. Wherein, okay, itong financial reports na 'to at itong mga financial statements na nagawa natin sa accounting, yan naman yung ginagamit ng finance for decision making. Okay? So in finance, basically it's all about the management of money, funds or resources of a certain company or the government. Okay? Now, sabi nga natin, in finance, after ng accounting na magawa yung mga financial statement or financial reports, halimbawa natapos na ng accounting department yung finance, ay yung financial reports or financial statement. Now, itong mga financial reports or financial statement na nagawa ng accounting department, it will be used by the finance department in order for them to review, to analyze and to interpret the financial statement or financial reports by the accounting. Okay? Kasi bakit nila kailangan i-analyze? Bakit kailangan nilang i-interpret yung mga financial statement na nagagawa ng accounting? Kasi dun sila nagbe-base sa magiging financial decisions nila na gagawin in the future. Okay? Parang yan yung reference, yan yung guide nila sa paggawa nila ng mga financial decisions. Okay? So, yan yung difference at saka yan yung relationship between the accounting and finance. Again, in accounting, it's all about recording or bookkeeping functions wherein nire-record mo yung mga financial transactions ng business, and then after mo i-record lahat ng transactions ng business, isa-summarize mo yan into a financial reports or financial statements. Now, dito sa financial reports or financial statement, after mo magawa yan sa accounting, yan naman ang ginagamit ni finance para i-analyze, to interpret yung mga financial statement or reports na nagagawa ng accounting para sa decision making, para maayos nilang ma-manage. Okay? Alam nila kung paano nila i-manage yung money, funds, or yung resources ng company. Okay? Now, let's talk about the types of finance. Now we have types of finance. We have here the public finance, corporate finance, and personal finance. Okay? Now, dito, unahin natin yung public finance. Public finance, from a government perspective, finance includes the management of country's national budget, Treasury Department, Central Bank, and the other government agencies. Now, public finance is focuses on the collecting tax revenue and spending that money on national services and programs such as roads, hospitals, and social security. Now, we all know that if we talk about the government, syempre may mga government funds din tayong ah, tinutukoy, di ba? May mga pondo din yung gobyerno na kailangan i-manage. Now, dito na papasok yung public finance. When we talk about the public finance in government's perspective, it's all about the management of countries or national budget. Okay? From collecting tax, 'di ba? Lahat ng tax na nako-collect ng government sa mga individuals at saka sa mga businesses, 'yan yung mga nagiging government funds. Now, itong mga government funds na 'to, 'yan yung ginagamit or 'yan yung ina-allocate ng government para sa pagpapagawa nila ng mga infrastructures kagaya ng mga roads, 'di ba? 'Yan yung ginagamit nila, yung mga funds ng government. Ginagamit nila yan para sa mga different infrastructures or projects ng government such as roads, public hospital, public schools, public ah, mga ano, mga railways, ganyan. So, also, hindi lang tayo nagfo-focus sa collecting tax revenue. Di lang tayo nagfo-focus doon sa ah, government funds, but also nagfo-focus din tayo kung paano natin ina-allocate yung government funds na yan. Halimbawa, ilang percent ang napupunta sa ganitong department, ilang percent ang napupunta sa Department of Health, ilang percent ang napupunta sa Department of Education, 'di ba? It's all about the allocation and management of country's budget or national budget. Now, kasama na rin diyan yung mga government spending gaya ng sinabi natin kanina. Okay? Siyempre may mga government spending din na kinakailangan para sa mga pagpapatayo ng mga infrastructures. Okay? So, yan yung ibig sabihin ng public finance. Okay? When we say public finance, it's all about the management of countries or national budget. Okay? Now, the second type of finance is what we call the corporate finance, or yung iba ang tawag dito is business finance. Now, from a business perspective, corporate finance is the management of the company's funding, its sources of revenue, uses of capital, and the management of its profit and loss statement. Now, the professionals at a business that have been the responsibility for managing this area includes the accountants, financial analysts, managers, executives such as the chief financial officer. Now, when we say corporate finance, it's all about the management of the business funds or business resources. Ang minamanage mo naman dito is yung pondo ng mga company or pondo ng mga businesses. Now, syempre, as part of the business, okay, syempre, di ba ang main objective nyo kaya kayo nagtayo ng business is because you want to earn profit. Gusto niyong kumita yung business niyo kaya kayo nagtayo ng business. Now, siyempre para ma-sustain natin or para ma-maintain natin yung business natin, kailangan natin i-manage na maayos yung mga company's funds or yung mga business funds natin. Okay? So, dito sa corporate finance, dito ang ginagawa natin, minamanage natin yung pondo ng business or ng company natin. Okay? Inaalam natin kung ano yung magiging source of revenue natin. So, pinapataas natin yung profitability dapat ng business natin. Paano natin ginagamit yung capital ng business. Okay? And also, the management of our profit and loss statement. Dapat alam din natin kung magkano yung kinikita ng business natin. Okay? So, yung mga primary yung mga persons or yung mga individuals na involved dito sa corporate finance is yung mga ating accountants, mga financial analysts, mga managers, executives such as the CFO or the Chief Financial Officers. So yan sila yung mga responsible on how they manage their funds or how they manage the business funds or business resources. Now, kapag yung business na to is hindi nila na-manage na maayos yung mga funds nila or yung mga resources nila, pwede magkaroon ng bankruptcy. Malugi yung business nila. Okay? Kaya important itong finance, especially sa mga businesses. Okay? Now, yung pangatlo natin and yung last nating types of finance is the personal finance. Now, finance is not only applicable sa mga government, hindi lang siya applicable sa mga businesses, but also finance is also available or finance is also applicable rather sa mga individuals just like us. Okay? Kayo mga students, yung mga parents nyo, they they apply also finance in our daily lives. Okay? Hindi natin alam na ginagawa na natin pala yung finance activity, no? Halimbawa, sa simpleng pagbabudget mo ng allowance mo, sa simpleng pagsisave mo, sa simpleng pagmamanage mo ng mga expenses mo, na-apply mo na pala yung finance in your personal life. Okay? Now, when we say personal finance, from a personal perspective, finance is the management of one's expenses, income, investment, and obligations. Okay? Individuals often work with personal banker, investment advisors, accountant, mortgage broker, and other professional to manage their financial situations. Now, usually sa mga business persons, kagaya ng mga investors, mga taong nag-i-invest, they usually working with with their personal bankers, mga investment advisors nila, mga accountant nila para matulungan sila na i-manage yung personal situation or ma-manage yung mga funds nila or yung sarili nilang resources. Okay? Pero in reality, kahit sa ating mga students or kahit sa ating mga parents, they apply, of course, personal finance. Halimbawa, yung kinikita ng parents nyo, di ba? Yung mga income ng parents nyo, minamanage nila yan. Ina-allocate nila yan kung ilang percent yung mapupunta dito sa transportation, ilang percent ang mapupunta sa baon nyo, ilang percent ang mapupunta sa bills na babayaran, etc. etc. Now, dun pa lang, nagkakaroon na kayo ng finance decisions. 'Di ba? Nagagamit nyo na yung finance, na-apply nyo na yung finance without knowing it. 'Di ba? Now, so sabi nga natin, personal finance, from a personal perspective, it's all about the management of personals or one's income, expenses, investment, and obligations. So, gaya nga sa example natin kanina, kayo as students, na-apply nyo rin ang finance. Okay? Kasi halimbawa may allowance kayo, daily allowance kayo, especially nung face-to-face class, di ba? May mga allowance kayo na binibigay yung parents nyo. It's either daily man yan, weekly allowance man yan or monthly allowance, 'di ba? Ang ginagawa niyo do'n is parang ina-allocate niyo yung allowance niyo kung magkano yung mapupunta sa ganito, magkano yung magagastos mo dito. And then kapag may matitira kayong mga, allowance, 'di ba, yung iba sa inyo puwedeng ise-save yung pera through alkansya or through piggy bank, yung iba naman sa inyo if meron ng mga, ah, bank accounts, usually nilalagay nila yung mga excess allowance nila doon sa mga, depository banks nila, okay. So ayan, again, so we have three types of finance: public finance, which is concerned about the management of government funds or national funds. Number two, we have the corporate finance, which is concerned about the management of business or companies' resources. And lastly, personal finance, which is concerned about the management of personal income, expenses, or funds. Okay? Hindi lang applicable ang finance sa government and business, but also it can be applicable to us individuals. Ang tawag doon, personal finance. Okay? Now, let's talk about the financial management within a business organization. Now, ano bang meron dito sa financial management? Okay? When we say financial management, it's all about how you manage your finances. Okay? Now, in your accounting one and in your organization and management subject, na-discuss na kung ano yung business organizations. Now, again, business organizations is an entity formed for the purpose of carrying on commercial enterprise, which means itong mga business organizations na nakikita natin ngayon, they established, or itong mga business organizations na to, tinayo ito because they want to earn profits. 'Di ba? Kaya ka nga nagtayo ng business, 'di ba? Because you want to earn profit or money, right? Now, again, we have types of business organizations. So we have the sole proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. Now, when we talk about sole proprietorship, it is a business organization that is consist of only one person called owner or entrepreneur. Okay? Isa lang yung may-ari. Kaya ang sinabing sole. When we say sole proprietorship, it is a type of business wherein it is owned by only one person. Now, yung only one person na yan, pwedeng tawaging owner, pwedeng tawaging entrepreneur. Alright? Now, the next business organization is partnership. Now, partnership is a type of business organization that is consist of two or more individuals in business together. So, ang tawag dito sa mga two or more individuals na yan, they called it as partners. Okay? Now, syempre, yung pangatlong business organization natin, which is the corporations. Corporations are probably the most dominant form of business organization in the Philippines. Now, corporation is a type of business wherein it is owned by five or more persons called the stockholders or shareholders. Okay? Now, please take note that the corporation can be privately owned or publicly owned. Now, anong difference ng privately owned sa publicly owned? When we talk about privately owned, ito yung mga corporations na limited lang sa iilan yung um, yung ownership ng business. So, example nito is yung mga family corporation, kung saan yung corporation is limited lang doon sa family members. Kaya nga sinabing family corporation. Yan yung mga privately owned corporation na yung stocks nila is hindi binebenta sa public. Okay? Binebenta lang yung stock sa mga limited persons. Okay? Now, when we say publicly owned, ito yung mga usually na nakikita natin mga corporations na nagbebenta ng stocks sa stock market. Okay? Or makikita natin yung mga stocks nila sa stock exchange kagaya ng Jollibee Corporation, 'di ba? Corporation 'yun. Meron tayong Coca-Cola, okay? Meron tayong San Miguel Corporations. Ayan, yung mga yan is mga publicly owned corporations. Okay? Pag sinabi nating publicly owned, yung mga shares nila is pwedeng ibenta sa public. Okay? Now, sa corporation, okay, pag-usapan natin yung corporation. Ang corporation kasi, halimbawa, 'di ba ang corporation sila yung mga nagbebenta ng stocks or ng shares. Now, sa mga point of view ng corporation, halimbawa isipin nyo, tayo yung corporation. Ang corporation, nag-i-issue sila ng stocks or nagbebenta sila ng stocks kapag kailangan nila ng pondo. Okay? Para magkaroon sila agad ng pondo, nagbebenta sila ng stocks or ng shares. Now, kapag ito ay binili ng mga investors, okay, yung proceeds na makukuha nila sa pagbebenta ng shares or ng stocks, yun yung gagamitin nila uh, for the company's plans or company's project. Okay? Now, sa point of view naman ng mga investors, okay? Kapag sinabi nating investors, tayo naman yung bumibili ng mga stocks na binebenta na itong mga corporations. Now, kapag tayo ay nagbili or tayo ay bumili ng mga stocks or ng mga shares, anong ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin, kapag bumili tayo ng stocks or ng isang shares ng isang corporations, magkakaroon tayo ng slice ng ownership or magkakaroon tayo ng ownership doon sa corporation kung saan tayo bumili ng stocks. For example, bumili tayo ng stocks ng Jollibee. Now, kapag bumili tayo ng stocks ng Jollibee, magiging form na tayo or part na rin tayo ng ownership ng Jollibee Corporation. Kahit maliit man lang yung shares mo, kahit onti lang yung stocks mo na binili, magiging part ka na at least ng corporation or ownership ng isang corporation. Okay? So, meron ka makukuha dito kapag bumili ka ng stock, especially kapag nag-declare sila ng cash dividends. Okay? Mamaya, madidiscuss natin yung mga dividends na yan. Okay? At saka ano yung mga benefits or ano yung mga return of investment mo kapag nag-purchase ka ng mga stocks or ng mga shares. Okay? Again, we have these types of business organization: sole proprietorship, which is owned by only one person. We have here the partnership, which is owned by two or more individuals called partners, and the corporations, which is the dominant form of business organizations in the Philippines, which is owned by five or more persons. All right. Now, so discuss naman natin kung ano yung mga advantages and disadvantages ng mga different business organizations na to. Now, in your accounting one, in your organization and management subject last semester, na-discuss na rin naman kung ano yung mga different business organizations and their advantage and disadvantages. Now, i-review lang natin. Okay? I-recap lang natin yung mga advantage and disadvantage ng mga business organizations na to. Now, let's start with the proprietorship or sole proprietorship. Okay? So, ang advantage ng sole proprietorship is number one, easy to form. Bakit? Kasi limited amount lang yung capital. Pwede ka na magtayo ng mga sole proprietorship business. And also, kaya siya tinawag na easy to form kasi hindi ganun ka dami yung mga government requirements na kailangan nating gawin or kailangan nating ma-meet. Okay? And also, ang advantage ng sole proprietorship is not expensive. Of course, kahit limited lang yung capital natin, if tayo lang, di ba sabi nga natin, only one person, owned by only one person. So, kung magkano man yung capital mo, halimbawa 5,000, 10,000, kahit ganyan lang yung capital mo, okay na yan. Okay? Basta ma-secure mo lang yung mga business permit, yung mga kailangang permit para mag-operate yung business, okay na tayo. Okay? Sabi nga natin kanina, kaya siya easy to form at less expensive because mababa lang or low lang yung government regulations na ini-implement. Okay? And number 4, no corporate taxation on the firm. Okay? Usually kasi kapag malalaking company kagaya ng corporations, mataas ang tax na binabayaran nila and fixed na yon. Halimbawa, 30%. Kung magkano man yung kinita ng business mo kapag corporation ka, 30% agad yon. Yun yung tax ng isang corporations. Now, ang disadvantage nga lang ng sole proprietorship is because is number one, difficult to raise capital. Since ikaw lang yung mag-isa sa business, malamang ikaw lang yung maglalabas ng capital. Diba? Difficult to raise capital kasi ikaw lang yung owner ng business. Wala kang kapartner. Okay? And another disadvantage of sole proprietorship is limited life of the firm. Limited life kasi easy to dissolve itong proprietorship. Anong ibig sabihin ng easy to dissolve? When we say easy to dissolve, madaling mabankrupt, madaling magsara. Kasi nga, since ikaw lang yung may-ari ng business and in case na merong financial difficulties, wala kang kasama or wala kang co-ownership, 'di ba? And another pala, before ko makalimutan, another advantage of proprietorship or sole proprietorship is ownership of all profit. So ibig sabihin, lahat ng kinikita ng business mo, sa'yo lang napupunta kasi wala kang kahati. Yun yung also part ng advantage ng sole proprietorship. Okay? Now, let's talk about the partnership. Now, partnership, sabi nga natin, it is owned by two or more persons called partners. Now, ang advantage nito is easy to form and less expensive, just like the proprietorship or sole proprietorship. And advantage din ng isang partnership is hindi gano'n kadami or hindi gano'n kalaki yung mga government regulations na kinakailangan natin. Okay? And number four, especially kapag ikaw ay limited liability partnership, ibig sabihin, hindi unlimited yung liability mo. So, hindi ka pwedeng habulin ng mga creditors in case na um, magkaroon man ng tawag dito, dissolution or magkaroon man tayo ng bankruptcy. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng limited liability partnership. Okay? Now, especially kapag partnership, ito naman yung disadvantage niya. Difficult to raise capital since if hindi naman kayo ganun ah, kadami sa partnership, no? Pero hindi naman siya gano'n ka-disadvantages kasi kung halimbawa 5 or more naman kayo or kung madami naman kayo sa partnership, you can raise a big amount of capital. Okay? Kasi in partnership, pwede naman kayo mag-invest ng money, ng property, ng industry, di ba? And number two, disadvantage ng partnership is limited life. Okay? Bakit sinabing limited life? Kasi once na magkaroon lang ng changes sa ownership ng business, halimbawa, may umalis na partner, may namatay na partner, may bagong pumasok na partner, mag, ang tawag dito, mawawala agad yung madi-dissolve agad yung business. Okay? Pero it doesn't mean na kapag na-dissolve na yung business, mawawala na siya as in. Okay? Now, pwede mo namang tawag dito, kapag nagkaroon ng changes sa ownership ng business, halimbawa may umalis na partner, may bagong dumating na partner, may tawag dito, may namatay na partners, okay? Pwede ba siyang pwede mo pang ituloy yung partnership kaso nga lang kailangan mo i-pangalan sa ibang partnership naman. Okay? Hindi na yung dating pangalan ng partnership yung gagamitin. Okay? Parang i-register mo ulit yung partnership mo into another name. Okay? Now, next naman, partnership. Ang disadvantage ng partnership then is unlimited liability if general partnership. So, ibig sabihin ng unlimited liability, pwedeng habulin yung mga partners ng mga creditors up to their personal asset or personal resources, personal assets. Okay? Halimbawa, hindi sapat yung pera na pambayad. Halimbawa, na-dissolve yung partnership, okay, nalugi yung partnership. If hindi sapat yung assets ng partnership na bayaran yung mga utang nila sa creditors, pwedeng habulin ng mga creditors yung mga partners up to their personal assets. Okay? Yan yung disadvantage kapag general partnership. Pero pag limited liability partnership ka naman, hindi ka pwedeng habulin ng mga creditors since limited liability partnership lang ito. Okay? Now, for the corporation, ang advantage ng corporation, of course, unlimited life. Unlimited life kasi ang life ng corporation, maximum of 50 years and it is renewable. Okay? Kapag 50 years na, pwede mo nang i-renew yung life ng corporation mo. Okay? And easy transferability, ibig sabihin, um, kapag maglilipat ka or kapag magbebenta ka ng stocks mo, magbebenta ka ng shares mo, madali lang, walang conflict between the partners. Okay? Walang pakialam sa yung ibang stockholders kung ibenta mo yung mga stocks mo or yung mga shares mo sa iba. Okay? And number three, advantage ng corporation is limited liability. And number four, easy to raise capital. Siyempre, corporation yan. Kapag corporation, pwede kang umutang, okay, kapag kailangan mo ng capital or pwede ka namang magbenta ng stocks or ng shares para magkaroon ka ng capital. Okay? Yung disadvantage nga lang ng corporation is double taxation and complex and time-taking charter filing process. So, medyo malaki. Okay? So, medyo madami yung mga government regulations natin. Especially kapag corporation, mas stricto ang government when it comes to mga corporations natin. Okay? So, ayan yung ating advantages and disadvantages ng mga different business organizations natin. Okay? Now, what is your idea? Now, may questions tayo dito. For the question number 1, assume that you are the biggest shareholder in a corporation. What are the objectives you want to achieve as owner of the obligation? Now, isipin nyo, kunyari, kayo ay isa sa mga pinakamalaking biggest shareholder sa isang corporation. Halimbawa, ang laki ng share nyo sa corporation. Now, since ikaw yung may pinaka biggest share sa corporation and part ka rin ng owner ng isang corporation, ano yung pinaka primary objectives na gusto mong ma-achieve? Siyempre, yung iba sa inyo, gustong ma-achieve ng business is, or ang gusto nyong ma-achieve as owner of the corporation is magawa. Okay, magkaroon ng profitability, kumita ang business. Okay, magawa lahat ng mga strategies na ini-implement. Okay, yung iba naman sa inyo, ang gusto, mapalago pa yung pera nila. Now, ito yung tinatawag natin na shareholders wealth maximization. So, yun yung pinaka-main objectives ng mga shareholders. Kaya sila nag-i-invest ng pera sa mga corporations or nag-i-invest ng pera because they want to maximize their wealth. Gusto nilang kumita, gusto nilang mag-grow, gusto nilang lumago pa yung mga perang in-invest nila. Ang tawag doon, shareholders wealth maximization. Okay? And for the question number 2, what do you think of a company who has a very large amount of cash? Now, isipin nyo, kapag ang company ay merong large amount of cash, syempre, maganda yan, di ba? Okay? Positive yan kasi ibig sabihin, since meron kang large amount of cash, meron kang capability na magbayad ng mga utang. Okay? Merong capability yung business mo na magbayad ng mga daily expenses. So may manggagamit ka sa pagbabayad ng mga day-to-day operations. Yun nga lang, hindi naman palagi na dapat hindi it doesn't mean na porket malaki yung cash mo, ibig sabihin positive na yon. Now, magkakaroon tayo ng negative implication kapag meron tayong large amount of cash and especially if itong large amount of cash natin is hindi natin nagagamit na maayos. For example, meron tayong mga excess cash, marami tayong cash na hindi nagagamit. Now, instead na, syempre na i-ano mo lang yan, i-embak mo lang yan sa company mo or imbak mo lang yan dyan sa loob ng business mo, nawawala yung opportunity na mag-grow yung pera natin. Now, syempre, if meron tayong large amount of cash that is idle or hindi natin nagagamit, we can invest it into different financing activities na alam natin mag-grow pa yung pera natin. Okay? So, kapag may mga large amount of cash tayo, yes, maybe it is positive kasi may magagamit tayo for daily expenses, may magagamit tayo para sa pagbabayad ng mga obligations or pagbabayad ng utang, but dapat na-manage natin properly yung excess cash natin na hindi nagagamit. Dapat if may excess cash tayo, invest nyo. Ilagay nyo sa mga activities na mag-grow yung pera nyo. Okay? And number 3, can you say that a profitable company is a successful company? Can success be attributed to the profitability only? It is possible that a company can have profit but still does not have enough cash to pay its obligation. Now, ang question number 3 natin, masasabi mo daw bang profitable yung isang company? Or masasabi mo daw bang successful? Masasabi mo daw bang successful yung company mo if magre-rely lang tayo sa profitability? The answer could be, it depends. Okay? And the answer is no pala. Bakit? Bakit? Yes, kapag profitable yung business mo, maganda yung implications niyan. Ibig sabihin, since malaki yung profitability mo, ibig sabihin kumikita ang business mo. Okay? But may mga instances na meron kang ngang profits pero wala kang enough cash pambayad sa mga obligations. Now, meron tayong example dito. Okay? Kasi ang tanong dito sa question number 3, masasabi ba nating successful yung isang company if magre-rely lang tayo sa profitability? Okay? Now, sabi dito, profitability or profit is a measure of financial performance of a company for a period of time. Okay? So, kapag may profit tayo, ibig sabihin maganda yung performance ng company natin since kumikita tayo. Now, profitability, although it is a major drive for increasing the value of stocks, an investor should not rely on the profits alone. So, as discussed earlier, it is possible that the company has profit but its cash flow is negative. 'Di ba? Ang question natin, 'di ba ang question natin kanina sa kaninang slides, masasabi ba nating successful yung isang business or yung isang company if magre-rely lang tayo sa profitability? Okay? Sabi natin, no. Okay? Although, sabi nga natin, although itong profitability is a sign na maganda yung performance ng business mo, but kapag ikaw ay investor, hindi lang tayo magre-rely dyan. Diba? Hindi lang tayo magre-rely dyan sa mga profitability natin. Kasi may mga instances wherein meron nga tayong profit pero negative naman yung cash flow natin. Now, suppose the following income statement and cash flow of companies A, B, and C were presented to you. Which do you think is more attractive company? Now, para masagot natin yung question na yan, meron tayong illustration dito. Now, assuming tayo ay investor, okay? Gusto nating mag-invest ng pera sa mga kumpanya, okay? Now, meron tayong pinagpipilian si Company A, si Company B, and si Company C. Now, dito sa tatlong to, diyan tayo mamimili kung sinong mga company yung lalagyan natin ng pera or kung saan dito sa company na to kung saan tayo mag-i-invest. Saan yung mas attractive para sa inyo as investor. So sa company A, based sa income statement, okay, analyze natin yung iba't ibang company. So sa company A, meron tayong income statement. So yung sales niya is 100,000 and yung cost or yung expenses niya is 50,000. Now, meron siyang profit na 50,000 pesos. But tignan niyo dito sa company A. Sa company A, although meron siyang profit na 50,000, meron siyang cash flow na negative 50,000. Bakit? Kasi wala siyang collection from customer. Okay? So, meron siyang payment of expenses na dapat bayaran which is 50,000. Now, since wala siyang collection from customer, meron siyang net cash flow of negative 50,000. So, meron siyang negative cash flow. Now, kung si company B naman yung pag-i-investan natin, ganito naman yung scenario. So, yung income statement niya is meron tayong profits na 50,000, negative which is net loss. Okay? Kasi yung sales natin, 100,000 lang. Pero yung expenses natin is umabot ng 150,000. So, meron tayong net loss na 50,000 pesos. Pero, sa company B, although net loss siya, tignan nyo yung cash flow natin. Sa cash flow, may collection tayo from customer which is 100,000. Now, may payment tayo ng expense na 50,000. So, yung net cash flow natin is 50,000. Okay? Although meron siyang net loss, kaso, meron naman siyang cash flow since nagkaroon siya ng collection from customers. Okay? Now, si company C naman, may sales siya na 100,000, may expenses siya na 70,000, and meron siyang kinita na 30,000 pesos. Okay? Now, for the cash flow naman, meron siyang collection from customers na 100,000, nagbayad siya ng expense worth 70,000 and yung net cash flow niya is 30,000. Now, as investor, kung kayo ay magiging investor at gusto nyo mag-invest sa mga companies, saan sa tingin nyo yung mas attractive or saan yung company yung mas safe na pag-investan? Of course, si Company C. Why? Because si Company C, meron siyang profitability and at the same time, meron siyang positive cash flow. Okay? May kinita siyang 30,000 at may cash flow siyang 30,000. Okay? Dito kasi kay company A, although meron siyang profit, kaso meron siyang negative cash flow, which is ang impact niyan kapag meron tayong shortage sa cash, kulang yung cash natin, it can affect our operations or business operations. Okay? Halimbawa, since may negative cash flow siya, wala siyang cash or wala siyang enough cash, saan siya kukuha ng pambayad ng daily expenses? Saan siya kukuha ng pambayad sa mga utang niya? 'Di ba? Now, ang mapapansin nyo kasi dito, wala siyang collection from customer. So, if we are going to analyze it further, itong sales pala or itong kinita ni company A sa pagbebenta ng mga products, lahat yan sales on credit. Ibig sabihin ng sales on credit, binenta niya lahat ng product niya pero pautang at hindi siya nag-collect. Wala siyang collection from customer. Kaya ang nangyari, nag-negative yung cash flow niya. Okay? Now, is it important that kapag nagbebenta tayo on credit, make sure na dapat nako-collect mo yung mga receivables nyo sa customer. Okay? It is important na dapat magaling ang company na mag-collect ng mga cash sa mga customers. Okay? Kagaya na ito sa company A, hindi niya nasingil or wala siyang collection from customer kaya wala siyang cash, 'di ba? Although may kinita siya na 100,000 pero lahat 'yan pinautang niya. Kaya ayun, since hindi rin siya nag-collect sa mga customer niya, wala siyang nakolekta kahit piso sa customer, ang impact niyan is negative yung cash flow. Now, if we are going to analyze, okay, hindi lang tayo dapat mag-rely sa profitability. Kung kayo ay investor, may mga factors din dapat kayo na dapat kino-consider. Hindi lang sa profitability ng business. Baka sabihin nyo kasi, ay, kumikita naman pala tong company na to, dito na lang tayo mag-invest. Pero wag lang tayo dapat mag-rely in profitability. Okay? May mga different factors din tayo na dapat kino-consider if we are going to invest in a particular company gaya ng cash flow. Dapat sufficient yung cash flow natin, okay yung liabilities, hindi masyadong malaki yung liabilities compare sa assets. Ayan, ilan lang yun sa mga factors na dapat kino-consider natin. Okay? Now, at the end of the day, the overall objective of shareholder should be wealth maximization. Okay? Tandaan nyo, as shareholder or as investor, ang pinaka-primary and overall objective nyo should be wealth maximization. When we say wealth maximization, yung mga perang ininvest nyo or yung mga perang inilagay nyo sa mga companies, dapat magma-maximize yan or lalaki or tutubo. Okay? Kaya ka nga nag-invest eh. Kaya ka nga naglagay ng pera sa particular company eh. Kasi gusto mong kumita, gusto mong ma-maximize, gusto mong mag-grow yung investment mo. Okay? Yan yung pinaka-primary all objective. Okay? Next. Now, paano natin ma-measure yung shareholders' wealth? Now, especially kapag bumibili tayo ng stocks or ng shares, paano ba natin na-measure yung shareholders' wealth natin? Okay? For example, assuming na bumili tayo ng 10 stocks or 10 shares of Globe Telecom at 2,510 each on September 9, 2019 at 2021. Okay? So, bumili daw tayo ng shares, 10 shares ng Globe worth 2,510 each shares. Now, yung total investment natin for that is 25,100. Now, what happens to the value of his investment if the price goes up to 2,600 per share or it goes down to 2,300 per share? Now, tandaan natin, kapag pinag-uusapan natin yung stocks, especially yung mga stocks or yung mga shares, yung shareholders wealth natin is nakadepende sa stock price or sa market price. Okay? Assuming na bumili tayo ng shares, meron tayong 10 shares ng Globe Telecom and nabili natin siya ng 2,510 or equivalent to 25,100. Now, kapag ang price ng stocks natin is nag-grow or tumaas siya ng 2,600 per share, ibig sabihin, yung shareholders wealth or yung investment natin is also nag-increase. Tumaas din. Kasi originally, nabili mo siya ng 2,510 lang. Ang cost niya ngayon is 2,600. Ibig sabihin, nag-increase yung investment or yung shareholders wealth mo. But if in case naman na bumaba yung stock price natin ng 2,300 per share, ibig sabihin yung shareholders wealth or yung investment natin is also nag-decrease. Okay? Kasi nabili mo siya ng 2,510. Ang cost na lang niya or yung price na lang niya ngayon is 2,300. So, nagkaroon ka ng decrease sa shareholders wealth or bumaba yung investment mo. Now, nakadepende kasi yan sa stock price or market natin. Now, in conclusion, we can conclude that the shareholders wealth is measured based on the current market price of the corporation stocks. So, paiba-iba yung ex- excuse me, paiba-iba yung shareholders wealth natin. Paiba-iba yung amount of investment natin since nakadepend yan and naka-based yan sa current market price natin. If tumaas ang ating market price or yung stock price natin, tataas din yung shareholders wealth or investment natin. Pero by the time na bumaba naman yung shares natin or yung price of stocks, bababa din yung shareholders wealth or yung ating investment. Okay? Now, the market price changes across different periods. Hence, the value of your investment changes in different points of time based on the market value at that time. Alam niyo naman, di ba, yung stocks, nakikita niyo naman, di ba, yung stocks natin, nag-fluctuate. When we say nag-fluctuate, nag-i-increase or nagdi-decrease yung price niya, depende sa depende sa ang tawag dito sa market. Okay? Now, nagfa-fluctuate 'yan. Minsan tataas, minsan magdi-decrease yung value ng stocks natin. Ayan, dapat alam natin kung paano natin mina-manage yung mga shares natin, especially kapag nag-invest tayo sa mga stocks or mga shares. Okay? So, ayan. Ngayon, ang sabi natin, 'di ba, nagbabago yung stock price. Bakit kaya nagbabago yung stock price or yung market price natin? Now, here are the factors that influence the market price. Now, meron tayong two factors that influence the market price. We have the internal factors and external factors. Now, internal factors, ito yung mga controllable by the management. So, ibig sabihin, may control tayo dito sa mga factors na to. Number one, profitability. Okay? If maganda yung profitability ng business natin, of course, maganda. Tataas din yung market price natin or yung stock price natin. Okay? Kasi we have the ability. We have the ability to generate uh reso we have the ability to generate income or profit, 'di ba? So kung kumikita ang business mo, mas nagiging attractive 'yan sa mga investors. Na kapag attractive 'yan sa mga investors, syempre bibili yan ng mga stocks. Therefore, tataas yung market price natin. Okay? Next, having a good liquidity and reasonable leverage position. Now, kapag meron tayong good liquidity and reasonable leverage, ibig sabihin kasi ng good liquidity, ito yung kakayahan ng company na magbayad ng utang. Now, kapag ang company is nakakapagbayad ng utang on time, okay, liquid siya, sabihin, kaya niya magbayad ng mga short-term obligations and hindi ganun kalaki yung mga liability or yung utang ng company, syempre, attractive din yan sa mga investors. Kapag attractive yan sa mga investors, nag-i-increase yung market price niyan if ever na maraming bibili mga investor ng stocks natin. Next naman is dividends. Okay? Ang dividends, ito kasi, dinedeclare yan ng mga corporations kapag meron silang kinikita. Okay? Kapag nag-declare ng cash dividends ang isang corporation, ibig sabihin, yung mga shareholders, makakatanggap sila ng mga dividends. Okay? Kung magkano man yung stocks na hawak nila or kung ilan man yung stocks na hawak nila. Now, kapag yung company kasi is laging nagde-declare ng mga dividends, attractive yan sa mga investors. Kasi isipin ng mga investor, ay, lagi pala itong company pala na to is laging nagde-declare ng dividends. Kaya, yung iba, bumibili talaga ng stocks sa mga companies na yan. Okay? Now, competent management which affects the company's operating efficiency. Now, alam naman natin kapag maganda yung management natin at effective and efficient yung pagmamanage natin ng business, of course, gaganda yung performance ng company, gaganda yung profitability ng company which is in return, tataas ang market price o yung stock price natin. Pero kung kabaliktaran naman, kung hindi tayo magaling mag-manage ng business, okay? Kung hindi marunong tayo mag-manage ng business, bababa ang stock price natin kasi baka hindi efficient or hindi effective yung management management decisions. Okay? And coming up with corporate plans that improve the business prospect of the company. Siyempre, kapag may mga kung meron tayong mga concrete corporate plans na nai-implement, ibig sabihin, mas nagiging efficient and effective yung business natin. Okay, which is in return, tataas ang market price or share price natin if maganda yung corporate plans natin na implement natin na maayos, 'di ba? Nagiging effective and efficient yung business. That's why minsan nag-i-increase yung ating market price. Okay? Now, ito naman yung mga uncontrollable external factors. Now, ito naman is yung mga factors na walang control ang business. Okay? Now, we have the macroeconomic conditions. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng changes sa market price because of the macroeconomic conditions such as inflation, 'di ba? Unemployment rate, ano pa ba? Meron pa nga anong tawag dito, yung status ng economy ng bansa if recession 'yan, if pababa tayo, ibig sabihin bumababa yung ekonomiya, it can also affect the market price or the share price natin. Okay, another is the political stability, the prospects of industry where the companies operates, the general market sentiment, and the flow of foreign fund invested in the Philippine Stocks Exchange. So ilan lang yan sa mga uncontrollable or external factors na nakaka-affect sa market price natin. Okay? Now, let's talk about financial management. Ang sabi natin kanina, financial management is all about the management of the finances of the company. Now, siyempre, bigay natin yung pinaka-definitions ng financial management. Now, when we say financial management, it means to collect a fund for a company at a low cost. So, under pala ng financial management, dito daw ginagawa natin yung pag-collect ng funds for the company at a low cost. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin, if the companies are in need of funds, if kailangan natin ng funds or resources, kailangan maghahanap tayo ng sources of funds kung saan low cost lang yung makukuha natin or low cost lang yung babayaran natin. Halimbawa, kapag uutang ka sa bangko, siyempre pag uutang ka sa bangko or uutang ka ng pera or uutang ka ng pondo, siyempre hanapin mo yung medyo mababa yung interest na babayaran mo. Okay? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng to collect funds for a company at a low cost. Baka kasi umutang ka nga, nagkaroon ka nga ng pondo, kaso ang taas naman ng interest na babayaran mo. So parang wala rin nangyari kasi mapupunta lang lahat ng funds mo or ng inutang mong pera doon sa pagbabayad mo ng interest. 'Di ba? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng to collect funds for a company at a low cost. Dapat kung maghahanap man tayo ng sources of funds, if uutang man tayo kunyari, make sure na hindi ganun kalaki yung cost na ibabayaran natin. Okay? And number two, financial management means to use these collected funds for earning maximum profits. Now, for example, nakakuha ka na ng funds, okay, nakapag-raise ka na ng capital or nakapag-raise ka na ng pondo. Now, itong mga nakolekta mong funds, ang ginagawa natin in financial management is ginagamit natin tong collected funds or mga nakolekta nating pondo para ma-secure natin, nakikita yung business natin. Make sure na itong mga nakolektang nating funds is na-allocate natin ng maayos, 'di ba? At dapat itong mga collected funds natin is nagagamit natin sa tama, which is dapat mag-earn yung mga perang nakolekta natin into a maximum profits. Okay? And number three, therefore, financial management means to plan and control the finance of the company. So in overall, when we talk about financial management, it means you are planning, you are controlling the finances of the company. Okay? Kaya nga sabi natin dito kanina, tayo yung in financial management, tayo yung naghahanap kung paano tayo makakapag-collect ng funds if kailangan natin ng pondo at tayo din yung nag-allocate ng mga funds na na-collect natin para kumita yung business natin. Okay, dapat make sure na nagagamit natin or na-allocate natin sa maayos yung funds na na-collect natin. Kaya ang sabi dito, financial management means to plan and to control the finances of the company. Okay? Now, financial management according to Kayanan, okay? Financial management deals with the decisions that are supposed to maximize the value of shareholders' wealth. Okay? So, as part of the financial management, sinisecure din dapat natin under ng financial management yung kung paano natin maximize or paano pa natin mapapalago yung shareholders wealth or yung investment ng isang shareholders or ng investor. Okay? Now, so let's talk about the corporate organization structure. Okay? Now, dito sa corporate organization structure, 'di ba meron tayong subject sa organization and management last sem. So diniscuss itong organizational structure na to or organizational chart kung tawagin. Now dito sa corporate organization structure, andito yung mga different persons involved sa sa overall company natin or sa overall structure ng business natin. And nandito din, i-discuss natin dito kung ano yung mga positions na to, kung para saan yan, at ano yung mga responsibilities nila. Okay, so meron tayong shareholders, meron tayong board of directors, meron tayong president or the CEO, and the vice president for marketing, finance, production, and administrations. Okay, so aalamin natin kung ano yung mga primary role or responsibilities ng mga positions na to. Okay? Now, let's start with the shareholders. Okay? Now, sabi dito, shareholders elect the board of directors and each share held is equal to one voting right. Anyone who owns the stock in the company has a voting right to make or has a voting right to the decisions that the companies make. Now, ang shareholders, alam naman natin, shareholders, sila yung owner ng business. At the same time, when we say shareholders, ito yung mga um, ito yung mga investors na nag-i-invest or bumibili ng mga stocks or ng mga shares ng mga corporations. Now, kapag ikaw ay isang shareholders, kayo yung or sila yung mga nag-e-elect ng mga board of directors. Now, mamaya i-discuss natin kung para saan ba yung mga board of directors na to. Okay? Ang alam natin, shareholders, sila yung mga bumibili ng stocks ng company or sila yung mismo yung owner ng corporation. Now, sabi dito, yung shareholder daw is merong voting right. Okay? Ano yung voting right? Para sa ba tong voting right na ginagamit ng mga shareholders? Now, kapag may mga corporate meetings, ang mga shareholders, okay, ang mga shareholders may mga voting right yan. Now, voting right saan? Meron silang voting right to the decisions that the companies make. Okay, parang kapag may pagdidesisyonan sa isang meeting, 'di ba? Ibig sabihin, may chance na makapag-participate itong mga shareholders na 'to sa ah, sa mga decisions na gagawin ng mga corporations in the future. Okay? Now, ano namang ginagawa ng mga board of directors? Usually, board of directors or the board of directors or BOD is the highest policy-making body in the corporation. Tandaan, board of directors, sila daw yung mga highest policy-making body in the corporation. Ibig sabihin ng highest policy-making body, sila yung mga nagde-decide kung ano mga strategies yung gagawin, kung magkano yung magiging, sila yung nag-a-approve ng mga budget, sila yung nag-a-approve ng mga uh, projects or ng mga corporate plans, ganyan. Okay? Now, aside from the highest policy-making body, the board of directors is also responsible to ensure that the corporation is operating to serve the best interest of the stockholders. Siyempre, as board of director, 'di ba sabi nga natin, itong mga board of director ay ini-elect ng mga shareholders. So ang primary responsibility ng mga board of directors is para ma-ensure na yung corporation is operating to serve the best interest or to serve the benefits of the stockholders. Okay? And syempre, as part of the responsibility of board of directors, sila yung nagsiset ng policies on investment, capital structure, and dividend policies. Ang ginagawa din ng board of directors is sila yung nag-a-approve ng mga company's strategies, just like we said earlier. Sila rin yung mga nag-a-approve ng mga goals and budgets. Also, the responsibility of the board of director is to appoint or remove members of the top management, including the president. So in case na hindi maganda yung performance ng isang president, okay, so pwede nilang tanggalin and mag-appoint ng bagong president. And syempre, part din ng job or part din ng responsibility ng mga board of director is to determine the top's management compensation. Okay? Now, so tapos na tayo sa shareholders and sa board of directors. Now, let's proceed to the president. Now, the role of a president in a corporation may vary from one company to another. Okay? Iba-iba ang trabaho ng president depende sa kung anong type of company or type of business yan. Now, but the primary responsibility or the primary role of the president is to oversee the operations of the company and ensuring that the strategies as approved by the boards are implemented as planned. So meaning to say, itong president, sila yung nag-o-oversee, sila yung nagmo-monitor sa operations ng corporations, and also ini-ensure nila na yung mga strategies na inapprove ng mga board of directors is properly implemented as planned. Okay, make sure nila na itong strategies ay nagagawa natin ng maayos. Okay? Now also, responsibility or yung responsibility din ng president is to perform all the areas of management or all function of management including planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. Okay? And syempre, president is the one who represents the company in professional, social, and civic activities. So meaning to say, kapag may mga deals, may mga transactions together with other business or other companies, sila yung nagre-represents ng company. Okay? Sila yung kumakausap sa mga negotiators, sila yung sa mga investors, sila yung kumakausap. Okay? Next is the Vice President for Marketing. Okay. Now, Vice President for Marketing, the primary role or primary responsibility of Vice President for Marketing is to formulate different marketing strategies and plan. Okay? Now, marami tayong mga different marketing strategies. Now, meron kayong marketing subject in your grade 12 next sem. So, madi-discuss kung ano yung mga different marketing strategies. Now, since tayo ay, ang pinag-uusapan natin is Vice President for Marketing, they are the one who formulates the different financial or marketing strategies and plans. So, ano ba yung mga different marketing strategies? Kagaya ng mga commercials, advertisement, okay? Ano pa ba yung mga different marketing strategies? So, marketing strategies kagaya ng mga buy one, take one, sale, coupons, ba? Etc. Ilan lang yan sa mga marketing strategies. Now, ang ginagawa kasi, kaya tayo gumagawa ng mga marketing strategies is para ma-influence natin or para ma-motivate natin yung mga customer to buy our products and services. Kaya nga sinabing marketing, minamarket mo yung product. Pinapakilala mo yung product mo sa mga customers or sa mga client. Okay? Now, syempre, para tumaas yung sales natin, para tumaas yung kita natin, kailangan natin mag-formulate ng mga iba't ibang marketing strategies para magkaroon tayo ng madaming customer, di ba? Ngayon, also part din ng responsibility ng Vice President for Marketing is directing and coordinating with the company sale. O bakit kaya halimbawa, ikaw ay Vice President for Marketing, bakit kaya kailangan mo makipag-coordinate? Bakit kailangan mo usap dito sa mga sales department natin? Kasi, 'di ba, sa marketing, Si Vice President for Marketing, siya yung responsible for making different marketing strategies. Now, nakikipag-coordinate or nakikipag-usap siya sa mga sales department para ma-assure or para malaman if yung marketing strategies ba na ginawa ng marketing department is effective or not. 'Di ba? Malalaman mo kung effective yung marketing strategies or hindi through sales department. Kasi kung halimbawa, after mong i-implement or after mo gawin yung isang marketing strategy, halimbawa, nagpa-commercial ka, nagpa-flyers ka, nagpa-billboards ka, na makikita mo yan, halimbawa, after mong gawin yung mga different marketing strategies, tapos tumaas yung sales. Ibig sabihin, may effect or naging effective yung marketing strategies na ginawa mo. Okay? Kasi makikita mo yan sa sales ng company. Kung tumaas yan, after mong gawin yung mga marketing strategies, ibig sabihin masasabi mong effective yung marketing strategies mo. Di ba? Now, as part of the responsibility of finance or as part of the responsibility for the vice president for marketing is performing market and competitors analysis. So bakit kaya natin kailangan i-analyze yung market natin? Bakit natin kailangan i-analyze yung mga competitors natin? Kasi itong mga competitors natin, sila yung threats sa company natin. Diba? If hindi natin properly na manage or hindi natin properly na analyze yung competitors natin, baka matalo tayo ng mga competitor natin. Baka lahat ng mga customer natin is makuha ng mga competitors natin. So, kailangan dapat yung mga vice president for marketing, they perform different market and competitors analysis. Parang inaalam nila kung ano yung ano yung naging strategies ng competitor nila para mahigitan natin yung performance nila. Okay, para ma-maintain natin yung mga customer natin sa business natin. Okay? Next naman, as part of the responsibility of the Vice President for Marketing is analyzing and evaluating the effectiveness and the cost of marketing methods applied. Okay? Also, Vice President for Marketing is the one who are conducting or directing research that will allow the companies identify new marketing opportunities such as the variant of the existing product, services already offered in the market. So, in marketing, gumagawa rin tayo ng mga marketing research. Now, sa marketing research, dito inaalam natin kung ano yung mga marketing opportunities na pwedeng gawin ng isang business or ng isang corporation. Okay? If ever na mag-o-offer ba sila ng another variant of products. Okay? So, kailangan nila mag-conduct ng research bago nila i-implement, syempre. Para malaman if ah, magiging effective ba itong plano natin, okay, or itong project natin. Kailangan natin ng proper marketing research. Okay? And also, yung pinaka-importante sa lahat, as Vice President for Marketing, you should know how to build good relationship with your customers and distributors. Okay? Kailangan meron tayong customer relationship, meron tayong good relationship with our customers and distributors kasi sila yung main main reason kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng income or ng sales because of our customers and distributors na bumibili sa atin. Alright? Next. Next naman is the Vice President for Production. Now, when we say Vice President for Production, di ba, yung mga companies usually, yung mga corporations or yung mga manufacturing companies, meron silang production na tinatawag. When we say production, ito yung parang ito yung ano natin ito yung department sa loob ng company kung saan sila yung namamahala sa pag-produce or sa paggawa ng mga product. Now, as Vice President for Production, they ensure that the production meets the customer demands. Okay, dapat alam mo, okay, as Vice President for Production, kung ilang mga products yung mapuproduce mo dapat within a specified period. Okay? Para ma-meet natin yung customer demand. Halimbawa kasi, hindi natin ah, hindi natin inalam kung ilan yung customer demand. Yun pala kulang pala yung mga products na na-produce natin, okay? So ayan, kailangan na ensure natin na yung production meets the customer's demand. Also, as part of the responsibility for Vice President for Production is to identify the production technology and processes that minimize the production cost and make the company cost competitive. Now, since ang pinag-uusapan natin is the production of product, syempre 'di ba kapag nagpo-produce or gumagawa tayo ng product, we use technology or we use machineries and equipment. Now, as part of the job of the Vice President for Production, dapat alam natin kung kailan tayo mag-a-upgrade ng mga technologies, kailan tayo mag-a-upgrade ng mga machineries and equipment para maging efficient and effective yung production natin. And also, dapat alam ng Vice President for Production kung paano niya ma-minimize or mapapababa yung production cost. Okay? Now, kapag kasi mababa yung production cost natin, ibig sabihin, mababa rin natin maibebenta yung product, which is make our company more cost competitive. Okay? Halimbawa, nakahanap tayo ng mga cheap raw materials pero maganda naman yung quality. O 'di ba kapag mababa lang yung presyo ng raw materials na nabili natin, pero maganda yung quality, of course magiging cost competitive yung business natin kasi mabebenta natin yung product ng mas mababa compare sa mga competitors natin. Now, siyempre alam naman natin yung mga customer, minsan or madalas bumibili sila ng mga products na mas mura, okay? So, yun. Now, next, as ano, tawag dito, as part also ng job or ng responsibility ng Vice President for Production is coming up with the production plan that maximize the utilization of the company's production facilities. So dapat yung mga facilities kagaya ng mga uh, production area dapat na ma-maximize natin, nagagamit natin maayos yung mga facilities, yung mga equipment, at saka wala tayong nasasayang na mga raw materials. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng maximize the utilization of the company's facilities and materials. Okay? So, yun. Next is Vice President for Administration. Now, when we say about or when we talk about the Vice President for Administration, more on general siya. Okay? General ang scope ng Vice President for Administration. Now, Vice President for Administration is the one who's coordinating the function of the administration, the finance and marketing department, and they also involved in assisting the other departments in hiring employees. Okay? Also, the Vice President for Administration is aiding or helping in the payroll preparations, payment of vendors, and collection of receivables, determining the location and the maximum amount of office space needed by the company, and identifying the means, processes, or systems that will minimize the operation cost of the company. Okay? Now, pero dito tayo magfo-focus sa pinaka-topic natin, which is the Vice President for Finance. Now, yung Vice President for Finance, siya kasi yung nagmamanage ng funds ng isang establishment or ng business. Okay? Kaya nga ang subject natin is business finance, di ba? Dito tayo magfo-focus sa mga responsibility, sa mga job ng isang Vice President for Finance. Now, according to this, the primary objective or the primary responsibility of Vice President for Finance is number 1, financing, number 2, investing, number 3, operating, and number 4, dividend policies. Okay? Now, let's start with number 1, which is financing. Now, as Vice President for Finance, if ikaw ay ma-hire or ikaw ang magiging Vice President for Finance, dapat alam mo kung paano mo pina-finance or paano mo mina-manage yung finance ng business natin. Okay? minamanage yung resources ng business. So, under ng financing activity, okay, the Vice President for Finance include making decisions on how to fund long-term investments such as company's expansion and the working capital which deals with the day-to-day operations of the company. For example, purchase of inventory, payment of operating expense. Now, sinasabi dito sa financing, dapat as Vice President for Finance, alam mo kung paano tayo makakakuha ng funds. Okay? Alam natin kung saan tayo kukuha ng funds para ma-finance yung mga different needs ng company. Halimbawa, kailangan natin ng pondo para sa company's expansion. So, dapat alam natin kung saan yung source of funds tayo kukuha. Okay? And also, when we talk about the working capital, for example, kailangan natin ng pera, kailangan natin ng funds for our day-to-day operations. Di ba kasi, di ba pag sinabi nating day-to-day operations, may binabayaran tayong palagi, mga utang, may binabayaran tayong mga bills, mga expenses. Dapat alam din ng Vice President for Finance kung paano niya i-finance itong mga working capital natin or yung mga daily expenses natin. Okay? Now, ganun din naman kapag company's expansion. Halimbawa, gusto ng company na mag-expand, gusto niya magtayo ng another branch. Now, dapat alam ng finance or ng Vice President for Finance kung saan siya kukuha ng long-term funds para mapondohan yung company's expansion. Now, the role of the Vice President for Finance of the financial manager is to determine the appropriate capital structure of the company. Now, under ng financing, dapat alam din daw ng Vice President for Finance kung ano yung appropriate capital structure ng company. Now, ano yung meron sa capital structure? Pag-usapan natin yung capital structure. Now, dito natin makikita yung capital structure at dito natin magigets kung ano ba yung capital structure. Now, dito, kung makikita nyo, di ba itong mga term na to, equity, liabilities, and assets, na-discuss na yan sa accounting subject nyo. Okay? Now, ang sabi natin when we say assets, ito yung ari-arian or ito yung properties or rights owned by the business. And when we say liabilities, ito yung utang or yung obligations ng company na dapat bayaran. And when we say equity, ito yung investments ng company. Okay? Ito yung makukuhang portion o ito yung interest ng owner sa assets niya after bayaran lahat ng liabilities. Now, anong meron dito sa capital structure? Now, dito, yung capital structure natin composed of different elements. Okay? So, assuming ito yung total assets natin, 100%. Now, ang sabi dito, okay, dito sa capital structure kasi, in capital structure, dito natin malalaman kung saan ba nanggagaling. Okay? Dito sa capital structure natin, dito natin malalaman kung saan nanggagaling yung assets or yung ari-arian or yung pondo ng kumpanya. Okay? Now, according dito, halimbawa, in order for us to acquire assets, our fund must come somewhere. Okay? Yung assets ng business, pwede yan manggaling sa iba't ibang tao. Okay? Again, sabi nga natin, itong mga assets or itong mga properties or resources ng company, pwede manggaling sa iba't ibang tao. Now, kapag ang asset natin is nanggaling sa mismong bulsa ng may-ari, okay? If, halimbawa, yung assets natin or yung resources natin is galing mismo sa bulsa natin or bulsa mismo ng mga may-ari ng business, ang tawag doon is equity financing. Okay? Equity financing. Okay? On the other hand, if yung resources natin or if yung assets ng company is galing sa mga borrowings kagaya ng utang, ibig sabihin nun, ang tawag natin doon is debt financing. Okay? Now, in the figure below, the total asset is financed by 60% debt and 40% equity. Now, accordingly, the capital structure is 60% debt and 40% equity. Now, kung titignan natin ito, di ba ito yung total assets natin? Now, sa total assets pala natin, 40% dyan galing sa bulsa mismo ng may-ari, which is tinatawag nating equity financing. Okay? And yung 60% pala ng assets natin or ng resources natin galing sa ibang tao or galing sa borrowings. Kaya ang tawag natin dito is debt financing. Now, ibig sabihin lang ng capital structure refers to how much of your total asset is financed by debt and how much is financed by equity. Now, kung titignan natin 'to, 'di ba ito yung total asset natin, ito yung total resources ng business natin. Now, dito sa capital structure, diyan natin makikita kung magkano sa total assets natin or magkano sa total resources natin ang galing sa utang or debt or ilang percent ang galing sa equity or galing mismo sa bulsa ng may-ari. Now, proper capital structure, dapat balanse yan eh. Okay? Dapat alam natin kung paano i kung paano yung magiging capital structure ng company natin. Hindi pwede naman na sobrang laki ng liabilities mo. 'Di ba? Halimbawa, 90% kunyari ng assets mo galing sa liabilities. Medyo mahirap-hirap yan kasi um, hindi masyadong maganda yan kasi kapag mataas masyado yung liabilities or yung percentage ng liabilities, ibig sabihin, kailangan mo magbayad ng malaki. Dapat um, yung capital structure natin must be parang a good balance between the debt and equity. Na kung kailangan natin ng assets, kung kailangan natin ng resources, or kailangan natin ng pondo, dapat sakto lang. Hindi masyadong malaki yung utang. Okay? Okay? So, yun yung capital structure. It refers to how much of your total asset is financed by debt and how much is financed by equity. Kapag yung total asset natin ay galing mismo sa bulsa ng may-ari, ang tawag doon ay equity financing. Kapag ang assets naman or yung resources naman natin ay galing sa mga borrowings or utang, we called it debt financing. Okay? So as part of the vice president or vice president for finance na responsibility, kailangan alam din niya kung paano yung magiging capital structure ng kumpanya. Okay? Now, next naman, isa pa sa mga role or responsibility ng vice president for finance is investing. Okay? Since you are the vice president for finance, dapat alam mo rin how to invest money or how to invest funds. Okay? Now, as part of your work or as part of your responsibility, alam mo dapat if ever na mag-i-invest yung company natin, saan natin siya i-invest. Okay? Now, meron tayong short-term and long-term investment. Now, kapag meron tayong mga excess cash, pwede naman natin yang i-invest sa mga short-term investment. Okay? Short-term investment decisions are needed when the company is an excess cash position. Okay, is in an excess cash position. So kapag may mga excess cash tayo, in case na may mga idle funds tayo, syempre as Vice President of Finance, dapat hindi lang pinapatulog yung pera sa kumpanya. Diba? Kung may excess cash or idle cash tayo, lagay natin yan sa mga investment kung saan may opportunity na mag-grow yung pera natin. Okay? Now, to plan for this, okay, the financial manager should be able to make use of financing planning tools such as budgeting and forecasting, which is madidiscuss natin in our chapter number 3. Okay? And moreover, the company should choose which type of investment it should invest. And moreover, the company should choose which type of investment it should invest in that would provide an utmost optimal risk and return trade-off. Now, syempre, if tayo ay mag-i-invest ng pera, dapat alam natin kung saan natin siya i-invest. At alam din natin yung risk na kakaharapin natin if nag-invest tayo doon sa particular investment na yon. Okay? Which is madidiscuss pa natin in our chapter 6 Sa chapter 6 kasi i-discuss natin yung mga different type of investment and ano yung mga risk na pwedeng kaharapin natin if nag-invest tayo dun sa particular investment na yun. Chapter 6 yan. Basta ang alam natin as of now, as Vice President for Finance, dapat we know how to invest. Alam natin kung saan particular tayo mag invest. Okay? And kapag meron tayong excess cash, meron tayong idle cash, we need to invest it in some short-term investment. Wherein, kapag in-invest natin itong mga cash position or excess cash natin, we will generate a return. We will generate a growth sa pera natin. Okay? Next naman is long-term investment. Now, ang long-term investment, ginagamit itong long-term investment kapag kailangan natin ng capital para sa halimbawa, gusto nating yung pera natin mas lumago pa ng mas malaki. Okay? Siyempre, kung gusto nating mas lumago pa yung pera natin ng mas malaki, matagal natin siya dapat i-invest dun sa particular investment. Now, long-term investment should be supported by a capital budgeting analysis, which is among the responsibility of the finance manager. Okay? Bakit kaya kailangan natin ng capital budgeting analysis kapag mag-invest tayo sa mga long-term investment? Sa capital budgeting analysis kasi, it is a tool to assess whether the investment will be profitable in the long run. Siyempre, hindi naman tayo mag-i-invest ng pera kung saan hindi siya kikita. Di ba? Hindi naman tayo mag-i-invest sa mga investment kung saan hindi siya magiging profitable in the future or in the long run. Okay? Now, para ma-assess natin if itong long-term investment is pasok sa taste ng company, now, kailangan natin ng capital budgeting analysis. Now, sa capital budgeting analysis, diyan natin maa-assess if ever na mag-invest tayo dito sa mga long-term investment, if itong long-term investment natin will be profitable in the long run. Okay? Halimbawa, meron kayong tatlong pinagpipilian na long-term investment. Okay? So, syempre, diyan sa tatlong pinagpipilian nyo kung saan kayo mag-i-invest ng long-term investment, hanapin nyo diyan kung saan diyan sa tatlong investment yung magpo-profit, magkakaroon ng profit in the long run. Okay? Siyempre yung iba na hindi naman gano'n kagandahan yung naging results, for example, hindi siya nag-grow, hindi siya nagkakaroon ng profit in the long run, yun yung ire-reject natin. Now, yung i-accept lang natin mga projects or yung mga i-accept lang natin ng mga long-term investment is yung mga investment kung saan magiging profitable siya in the long run kasi tayo din naman yung magbe-benefit diyan eh. Okay? Hindi lang tayo basta-basta invest ng invest, no? Okay? As the part of the responsibility of the Vice President of Finance, dapat alam din natin kung saan natin siya ini-invest. At make sure dapat na nai-invest natin ito sa mga investment kung saan mas nagiging profitable at lumalaki yung perang ininvest natin, which is madidiscuss pa natin later on sa ating chapter 5. Okay? Next, sabi dito, the lenders or yung mga pinautang or yung mga nagpautang sa atin should have the confidence that the investment that they manage will push through will be profitable or else they would not lend the company any money. Okay? So, syempre, dapat if uutang tayo, 'di ba, ng pera or uutang tayo ng funds sa mga lenders, make sure na binibigyan natin sila ng confidence na mababayaran natin yung mga perang inutang natin sa kanila. Okay, dapat maipakita natin sa mga lenders natin or sa mga uutangan natin na itong mga perang hiniram natin sa kanila is mag-grow ng profit. Okay? Kasi kapag hindi nakita ng lender, halimbawa nakita ng lenders na ay parang hindi naman nagagamit sa maayos ng company yung perang inutang nila sa atin, 'di ba? So itong mga lenders na 'to, hindi na sila magpapahiram ng pera sa atin if hindi sila sure na mababayaran natin sila, 'di ba? So 'yan, dapat alam ng Vice President for Finance kung anong mga investment yung kanilang pag-iinvestan. Okay? So meron tayong financing kanina, 'di ba? Tapos meron tayong investment. Yung pangatlo naman is ito. So, the third one, okay, yung primary responsibility ng Vice President for Finance is also operating. Okay, bukod sa financing, bukod sa investing, the Vice President for Finance is also uh, responsible for the operate or for the daily operations of the company. Okay? Now, bakit kailangan natin malaman yung mga daily operations ng company? Now, syempre, from daily operations, 'di ba may ginagastos tayo palagi? May mga binabayaran tayo araw-araw, nagbabayad tayo ng expense, nagbabayad tayo ng liability or ng utang. Now, dapat alam ng Vice President for Finance kung saan siya kukuha ng funds pambayad dito sa mga daily operations. Now, the role of the Vice President for Finance is to determine or determining how to finance the working capital such as account receivables and inventory. Now, syempre, as Vice President for Finance, bakit daw natin kailangan minamanage yung account receivable? Alam naman natin sa accounting, when we say accounts receivable, ito yung mga utang ng customer sa atin. Now, bakit natin kailangan minamanage yung mga account receivable? Kailangan natin i-manage yung mga account receivable natin kasi gusto nating masingil. Okay, gusto nating masingil yung mga inutang ng mga customer sa atin. Now, kasi kapag hindi natin nasingil yung mga customer natin, wala tayong cash, 'di ba? Okay? Mahirap yung wala tayong cash. Pag nagkaroon tayo ng cash shortage, ang puwedeng mangyari, hindi natin mababayaran yung mga daily operations or daily expenses natin. Wala tayong cash pambayad sa mga short-term obligations or sa mga utang na babayaran natin in the short term, 'di ba? Now, it is important na dapat alam natin kung paano mag-collect, paano natin mina-manage yung receivables natin sa customer. Now, bakit kailangan din natin i-manage yung mga inventories? When we talk about inventories, dapat mina-manage din yan. Why? Kasi ang inventories, related siya sa sales. Now, kapag yung inventories mo ay gumagalaw, ibig sabihin, maganda yan kasi since gumagalaw yung inventories mo, ibig sabihin nakakabenta ka. Okay? Pero kung yung inventories mo ay nakastock lang yan dyan sa storage area or hindi gumagalaw yung inventories mo, ibig sabihin yan, hindi mo nabebenta yung mga inventory. Wala kang sales, kumbaga. Okay? So, dapat minamanage mo rin yung inventories. Dapat itong mga inventories na to, dapat may maibenta siya next month. Okay? Para mag-restock naman tayo ng ibang inventories. Yun ibig sabihin nun. Okay? Kasi kung hindi gumagalaw ang inventories mo, hindi mo nabebenta yung mga products na binebenta ng company. Okay? Now, the company has a choice on whether to finance working capital needs by long-term or short-term sources. Now, kung kailangan man natin ng funds, okay, kung kailangan man natin ng pera for the working capital or to finance our working capital, nasa finance manager na yan or nasa vice president for finance na yan kung saan siya kukuha. Kung sa short-term sources ba or sa long-term sources. Okay? Now, the last responsibility of the Vice President for Finance is the dividend policies. Now, dividend policies, the role of the financial manager is to determine when the company should declare cash dividends. Now, di ba sabi natin sa cash dividends, kapag ang isang investor ay bumili ng stocks or ng shares ng isang company, may mare-receive siyang return. Ano yung return na babalik sa kanya? Ano yung return of investment natin? Ito yung mga dividends. Now, kapag ang isang corporation ay may profit or may kinita siya and nag-declare siya ng cash dividends, ibig sabihin nun, merong portion doon sa kinita ng corporation na may mare-receive tayong dividends. Okay? May portion tayo na makukuha doon. Now, sabi nga natin, cash dividends are paid by the corporations to existing shareholders based on their shareholdings in the companies as return on their investment. Kaya nga nang sinabi natin kanina since tayo ay bumili ng stocks ng isang corporation, may mare-receive tayong dividends. Now, kapag yung isang corporation ay may kinita nga, halimbawa, nagkaroon siya ng profit, may income siya, may kinita. Now, and if ever na nag-declare siya ng cash dividends, ibig sabihin, kung magkano man yung kinita niya ng corporations, may portion tayong makukuha doon, which is tinatawag nating dividends. Okay? Now, Itong mga investors na 'to, kaya sila bumibili ng stocks because of the dividends they expect to receive from the company, okay? Kaya nga tayo bumibili ng stocks, eh. Kaya nga tayo bumibili ng shares, eh, para magkaroon tayo or makatanggap tayo ng dividends in case na kumita itong business na 'to, okay? Now, may mga instances naman na yung corporation or yung company is hindi nagde-declare ng dividends. Now, non-declaration of dividends may disappoint these investors. Now, as part of your responsibility as Vice President for Finance, dapat alam mo kung kailan ka magde-declare ng cash dividends or hindi. Okay? Now, magde-declare ka ng cash dividends if the two conditions must exist. Okay? Now, before a company may be able to declare cash dividends, ito na muna kasi yung mga conditions na dapat makita natin. Okay? Bago yung Vice President for Finance, bago siya mag-declare ng cash dividends, dapat minimake sure niya na yung company must have enough retained earnings or accumulated profit to support cash dividend declaration, and the company must have enough cash. Okay? Dapat may enough cash ang corporation bago sila mag-declare ng cash dividends. Kasi halimbawa, nag-declare ka ng cash dividends tapos wala naman palang enough cash, o saan ka kukuha ng pambayad? Saan ka kukuha ng cash pambayad sa mga shareholders, 'di ba? Now, sabi natin may mga situations or may mga instances wherein yung corporation ay hindi nagde-declare ng cash dividends. Now, dapat as Vice President for Finance, maipaliwanag mo sa mga investor or maipaliwanag mo sa mga shareholders mo kung bakit hindi ka nag-declare ng cash dividend. Okay? Kasi kapag hindi ka nag-declare ng cash dividends, madi-disappoint yung mga stockholders natin or mga investor. Now, syempre, dapat ipaliwanag mo sa kanila kung bakit hindi ka nag-declare ng cash dividends. Now, yung iba kasi, hindi sila nagde-declare ng cash dividends kasi instead na yung cash dividend is ipambayad sa mga shareholders, gagamitin kasi nila yung pera for the future expansion or future investment ng business, which is understandable naman sa kanila. Okay? Maiintindihan naman yan ng mga investors or ng mga shareholders kung hindi sila mag-declare ng cash dividends. Halimbawa, sinabi na hindi muna tayo ngayon magde-declare ng cash dividends kasi itong pera na gagamitin natin is gagamitin natin for future expansion or for future investment. Now, sa kanila acceptable 'yon kasi magbe-benefit din naman sila dun, eh. Okay? Ay, baka sabihin ng investor, "Ay, okay lang na hindi muna sila mag-declare ng cash dividend since gagabitin pala nila ito for the future expansion." Now, kasi maganda rin naman yung magiging results nun, 'di ba? Kapag nag-open ka ng another business or nag-open sila ng another branch, mas lalaki yung profit ng business. O kapag tumaas yung profit ng business, by the time na magde-declare na ng cash dividends itong Vice President for Finance, medyo malaki na rin yung distribute or maibibigay sa mga shareholders or stockholders. Okay? Yan yung ibig sabihin ng dividend policies. The finance manager or the Vice President for Finance must know must know when to declare cash dividends. Okay? Now, next. So, let's talk about the financial manager. Actually, the vice president for finance is actually the financial manager. Now, financial manager is a person who takes care of all the important financial functions of an organization. Kaya nga sinabing financial manager, eh. Siya yung nagte-take care, siya yung namamahala sa mga financial functions sa isang organization. Siya yung bahala for the investing, siya yung nag-iisip ng kung paano i-allocate yung funds, kung saan gagamitin yung pondo, kung paano makakakuha ng additional funds. Yan yung trabaho ng financial manager natin. Ngayon, here are the main function of financial manager. Number one is the raising of funds. Now, as financial manager of a business, dapat you know how to raise funds. In case na kailangan ng business ng additional funds, if kailangan ng business ng pera para sa company's expansion, or kailangan ng pera para sa daily operations, dapat alam ng financial managers kung saan at paano siya mag-raise ng funds. Now, in order to meet the obligations, it is important to have enough cash and liquidity. Okay? Sabi nga natin, if kailangan natin ng cash or ng pondo, dapat alam ng financial manager kung paano siya magre-raise ng funds. Okay? Hindi mo pwede kasing hindi kasi pwede na isa walang bahala na wala tayong excess cash or wala tayong enough cash. Sabi nga natin kapag wala tayong enough cash or meron tayong negative cash flow, it can impact or it can tawag dito, affect the operations of the business. Okay? Now, a firm can raise funds by debt or equity. Gaya nga ng sinabi natin kanina, if kailangan ng company or ng corporation na magkaroon ng additional funds, pwede naman silang umutang. Or kung ayaw man nila umutang or may by debt, they can issue or they can sell shares or stock. Pwede silang magbenta ng stocks. Ang tawag doon, equity financing. Okay? So, yun. Next. Number 2, another function of financial manager is the allocation of funds. Now, allocation of funds, once funds are raised, it is important to allocate the funds in such a manner that they are optimally used. Of course, di ba? After mo mag-raise ng funds, after mo makakolect ng funds, dapat the financial manager should know how to allocate those funds na nakuha niya. Okay? And make sure dapat na mini-make sure dapat ng mga financial manager na itong mga funds na na-collect niya is nagagamit optimally or na ma-maximize niya, na utilize kumbaga. When we say na utilize, nagagamit na maayos yung mga na-collecta niyang funds. Dapat i-allocate niya sa dapat na tama yon. Okay? Number 3 is profit planning, which means the proper usage of the profit generated by the firm. So, kumbaga dito, alam ng financial manager kung paano niya gagastusin or gagamitin yung profit ng business. Now, syempre, sa profit ng business, may portion dyan na mapupunta sa pagbabayad ng expenses, may portion or may part sa profit natin or sa income natin na mapupunta sa pagbabayad ng utang, yung matitira naman mapupunta sa investment, sa savings ng company, etc. Dapat alam din ng financial manager how to profit planning, how to properly use the profit of the company. Next naman is number 4. So as the function of the financial manager. Now, in number 4, financial manager should know or understand how the capital market works. Okay? Now, when securities are traded in the stock market, there's a huge amount of risk involved. Okay? Bakit kailangan na alam at merong idea yung financial manager sa mga capital markets? Kasi usually, yung mga corporations, 'di ba sila yung nagbebenta ng stocks, sila yung bumibili ng stocks ng company. Now, dapat as financial manager, alam niya how the capital market works. Okay? Kasi kapag yung securities or yung shares natin ay nasa stock market, paiba-iba ng presyo yan. So, mayroong huge amount of risk na involved yan. So, dapat malawak yung understanding ng financial manager dito sa mga capital markets. Okay? Alam niya kung kailan magbebenta, alam niya kung kailan bibili ng mga stocks. Okay? So, yan yung mga main function of the financial manager. Number 1, raising of funds. Number 2, the financial manager should know how to allocate funds. Number 3, profit planning. And number 4, the financial manager should know and understand how the capital market works. Okay? Dapat malawak yung knowledge natin when it comes to capital markets. Napakalawak kasi ng ng capital markets. Madi-discuss natin in the succeeding chapter kung bakit malawak itong capital markets na yan. Okay? Now, here are the guiding principles of financial or guiding principle for financial management system. Okay? So, kung tayo ay mag-work as part of the financial management or mag-work tayo as financial manager man or vice president for finance, ito yung mga principles na dapat natin tandaan. Number 1, you should be consistent. Okay? Number 1 is consistency. Now, financial policies and system must remain consistent over time. When we say consistency, kung anong financial policies and system yung ginamit mo from this period, yan yung gagamitin mo for the succeeding periods. Now, for the consistency, it doesn't mean na hindi ka pwedeng magpalit ng financial policies. Pwede ka naman magpalit ng financial policies pero dapat ah, susunod tayo sa mga tawag dito, kapag magpapalit tayo ng financial policies, dapat inform yung business, inform yung mga tao na involved dito sa financial natin. Okay? Okay lang naman magpalit ng mga financial policies as long as it for the benefit of the business or for the benefit of the corporation. Okay? Number two, of course, dapat you should be accountable. When we say accountability, you must be able to explain and demonstrate to all stakeholders how you have used your resources and what you have achieved. Kaya nga sinabing accountability, ba? Dapat kailangan mong ma-explain sa kanila, kailangan mo maipakita sa kanila kung paano mo nagamit yung resources, kung saan mo nilagay, kung ano yung na-achieve mo doon sa bagay na yan. Okay, accountable. Okay, para in case na halimbawa hindi man naging maganda yung finance decision mo, you should be accountable for that activity. Okay? Number three, transparency. Siyempre, ini-entrust sa'yo. Halimbawa, ikaw ay na-hire as finance manager or vice president for finance. You should be transparent. Okay? Now, you must be open about its work and its finances and make sure you are making information available to all stakeholders. Transparent tayo. So lahat dapat ng finances, lahat ng activity na ginagawa natin sa funds ng business dapat available 'yan. Okay? And na, pinapakita mo sa mga stakeholders or sa mga persons concerned. Okay? Transparent. Okay? Wala kang tinatagong mga hidden agendas or hidden activities. Ginagamit mo sa maayos yung funds ng business natin. Okay? Number four is integrity. Now, syempre, uh, you must have an integrity kapag ikaw ay nagtatrabaho as finance manager or as part of the finance team. Okay? You must be open with honesty and propriety. Number five, financial stewardship. Now, pag sinabi nating stewardship, ikaw yung nagtitake good care. Okay? Ikaw yung since ini-entrust sa'yo, okay, ini-entrust sa'yo ng company yung finances or ini-entrust sa atin yung mga funds or yung resources ng company, dapat tayo, since ini-entrust sa atin yung pera ng company or yung pera ng business, we must take good care of the financial resources it has given and we make sure dapat that they are used for the purpose intended. Okay, kaya nga tinawag na financial stewardship. And lastly, number six, accounting standard. Dapat sumusunod tayo sa mga different standards or accounting standards. Now, the system for keeping records and documentation must observe accepted external accounting standards. Siyempre, since ang pinag-uusapan natin is financial aspect, ba? May mga documents, may mga records tayo. Halimbawa, mag-i-invest tayo ng pera, may gagastusin tayo. Yan, dapat lahat ng record natin is well documented para maging transparent tayo at accountable tayo sa magiging results kung ano yung mga ginawa nating financing activities. Okay? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng mga guide, yan yung mga guiding principles natin for financial management system. Number one, consistency. Number two, accountability. Number three, transparency. Number four, integrity. Number five, financial stewardship. And number six, accounting standards. Okay? So, that's the end of our part 1 sa introduction to financial management. Now, for the part 2, next video or next meeting, i-discuss natin ang topics about how the financial system work, what are the different financial instrument, what are the different financial market and financial institutions. Okay? So, ayan lang muna for today and next meeting, here are the topics na i-discuss natin. Okay? So, thank you.